All right, good evening, everyone. We'll get started. Thank you for coming to our 8th grade parent/student orientation. This is the second time that I've been in front of the parents and the students this year to talk about the transition to high school. We met with the students yesterday. They came up from the middle school. We gave them tours of the building with some of our upperclassmen students. They toured them through the building. And then we came back and we went through pretty much this presentation with a little bit of modifications for them. And I thought overall it went well. Is that the feedback that you got? Yes? Or did they not tell you? Because I have an 8th grade son who tells me nothing, so I don't know. But it's definitely an anxious time. I'm just curious, like, how many in the audience is this your first child coming to the high school? Okay, that's what I thought. So, and how many people think that their child is completely ready to come to the high school? Like I said, my oldest is in 8th grade as well, and I'm going through this process for the first time, and I'm supposed to be an expert. And I still feel like I'm not really sure, if I'm making the right decisions or, how it's going to go. But I can tell you from doing this for over 20 years and being in high school for a majority of it, that it's going to go just fine. The transition is really something to watch. We, Mrs. Duranda and Mr. Henderson and I see it every year when the students come up from the 8th grade. And when they first get here, it's a big transition. It's a bigger school, there's older kids. They don't know what to do with themselves when they get here. They have freedom that they've never had before. They come to our common lunch, which is 55 minutes long, and they're allowed to kind of roam the building, obviously controlled with a lot of activities. They eat their lunch in 4 minutes and they start pacing around the building because they don't know what to do, start playing tag, things like that. And then they look around and they look at, some of our upperclassmen. I see, a couple here tonight, seniors, who, they're not doing that. And they realize, this is not actually what you do here. And then you start to see a transition in October, November, and it's like a whole different group. So there really is a lot of growth. So enjoy it because it goes fast. It does go fast, but they're going to have a great experience here. So I just wanted to lead off with that. So just to introduce, my name is Doug Walker. For those of you that I haven't met or haven't been in front of, I'm the principal here at the high school. This is my 11th year at Chatham High School. This is my first year in the principal position. I was an assistant principal for the last 10 years. With me tonight is Lori Duranda, who's an assistant principal here at the high school, and Mr. Henderson, who is the other assistant principal here. And not with us tonight because typically 6 days a week from the hours of 3 to 8, 9 o'clock at night, Darren Diacoso, our athletic director, is on a field somewhere working with teams. So he's our athletic director, not here with us tonight, but I'll talk about some of the athletic information as well. So our goal for this presentation, and it is a little early, school doesn't start till September. One of the reasons that we do this presentation is it started off with bringing the students up. Usually sometime in April or May is where we try to do it. And the idea is to give them a glimpse of the high school with students in class, because they walk through the halls while the kids are in class, and to talk a little bit about what they're going to expect when they come to the high school, how our schedule works, how our lunch works. And we don't expect them to remember every single thing that we share on these slides tonight, but it's to give them a little bit of context and kind of if they're anxious about this process and going into the summer, just so they have a little bit of understanding of kind of, what they're getting into. We will share this presentation. It's being recorded by one of our students tonight in our videography program. And so a recording of it will be available on the slides and be able to reference it again. And I'll be talking about this in a bit, but we will also meet with all the incoming grade 9 students on the first day of school. We'll have a class meeting with them right at the beginning of the day, where we have a delayed opening, and the grade 9 students come in for regular time, and the rest of the school comes in a delayed opening, so that we can meet with the students, go through just what they need to know for navigating the building and such that day, answer any questions, and then move them on. So I'll talk a little bit of that in a bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about an overview of CHS and about really student life at CHS and kind of what a day in the high school looks like, how our schedule operates and such. When I did our curriculum night presentation back in, I guess that was January, that was about scheduling. We were talking about course selection for the high school and that process, going onto the portal to pick electives. We talked a little bit about their graduation requirements and the core classes. And what I highlight during that, and to me, there's sort of four parts to high school, right? And this is kind of where we want to find balance between them all. Is we're working, one area is obviously core academics, right? That's what we're here for. We're here for learning. There's an amazing academic program here. There's appropriate rigor. It's a really great learning experience. But we also have a number of elective options. And I talked about that back in January, February. Like, high school is the time to be able to sample elective areas. And most of our elective courses, a lot of them are semester courses, which is nice because it allows you to give a course a try and see if it's something that you want to continue with. And so when we work with students, we really encourage them for these 4 years. Like, this is your chance to really start to explore what it is that you're interested in. What do you think you want to pursue? Do you want to learn a little bit about, is it computer science, or is it about engineering, or is it about business and such? And so there's a lot of opportunity for that. There's also an incredible amount of extracurricular activities. We have 60, 70 clubs every year. Clubs are student driven, so we run them if there's student interest in running them. And so each year it fluctuates, but there's clubs that some are really large, some are really small, some are service focused, some are interest focused, and there's a lot of opportunity there to explore interests, meet people, get involved, and they're a big part of our learning ecosystem here. As well as extracurricular activities. 36 athletic teams, we have a thriving music and theater program. There are a lot of opportunities between these to expand beyond just the core academics. And what I say to the students all the time, if when you're in high school, if the only thing that you do is just schoolwork, you're missing out on so much more of the opportunities that really also contribute equally to your learning and your experience in high school. And over this course for 4 years, there's going to be a lot of social, emotional, learning development. There's going to be a lot of maturity that happens that you'll see from 9th grade to 12th grade. And, we see it every day, every year, where, when you watch that transition to a student who comes in from 8th grade, and maybe there's a little bit, some are more mature than others, some have a lot of direction, some are, not so much. And by the time you start to see them develop through the years, they're very focused, they're driven, they know where they want to go, they have a future in mind, and it's really something else to watch. But it does go fast, so keep an eye on that. So what I wanted to just touch base on, because one of the things that I wanted to bring up was just some questions that I've gotten since we did the curriculum night presentation, just talking about schedules and courses. So just so you know, we are in the process of developing the master schedule now. So all the courses requests have been in, and we're working on developing it now. Some of it's created by our computer system, but there's a lot of hand manipulation that has to be done. It's a massive undertaking. There's over 10,000 seats that are filled in this, about 300 individual courses for 1,235 students. So it's quite a puzzle, but we're making really good progress with it. But what I had shared during our curriculum night presentation is that every student can take up to 8 courses, and so your children were recommended courses from their teachers, and then you selected some electives. And 6 of those courses for a grade 9 student are going to be the required courses: your math, your English, your social studies, your world language, your physical education, all required. And then there's 2 empty periods where students can either fill in electives or study hall. And I got some questions a lot about, study hall. Is it okay to take a study hall? Will I have enough credits to graduate if I take a study hall? And I just want to clarify some of that for those of you that are uncertain. So every full year course is 5 credits, right? So with the exception of science classes are 6 credits because they have a lab component, so they have more seat time. So if you take, and then our semester courses are 2.5 credits. So if you fill your schedule every year with 8 courses, you'll end up with 41 credits a year. Over the course of 4 years, you'll accumulate 164 credits. If you take 7 courses and decide to have a study hall in there, then you'll end up with 36 credits, and you'll still have 144 credits, and the minimum graduation credit requirement is 120. So there's plenty of room in there to do it, and I only say that because we have about 85% of our students who do take study halls. And I actually, when I first came to the high school years ago, it seemed like a large number to me, but I kind of get it now because, I definitely get it now. So, it's a rigorous course load. Our students are busy, right? You keep your kids busy, right? They have a lot going on. They have sports teams, they have things going on after school. This gives them a chance to get caught up on their work and such. So I wanted to just clarify that, it is okay if that choice is made. And so schedules will be released I'm probably looking at the end of May, beginning of June, when we'll be able to send a message out to everybody that the schedules are in. In the next week, I'm going to be passing it off to our school counselors. School counselors will then look at the students who had conflicts. There's going to be situations where a student might have picked an elective that they wanted, but because of the way it fell in the schedule, it wasn't able to fit this year. Good news is, as a grade 9 student, you'll have 4 years to get that course in. And the counselors will be reaching out to the student and you to make, if you have to make a different choice. When you were in the portal, you picked 5 priority choices, some of you, so they might, go to one of those. So the counselors might be in touch during the month of May, and then in June, we're gonna go ahead and release what will be the schedules for next year. They're tentative schedules. And when I say that is, the student will definitely get every course that they asked for at that point. What could change is over the summer, we do some balancing. And that's basically making sure that our classes are evenly balanced, so we move students between periods. So sometimes the course won't change, but the period in the room will change. So sometimes that will happen over the summer, and then in August we'll release what will be the final schedule. So that's kind of our timeline. Along the way, if you look at your child's schedule and you decide that you want to make a change, I have counselors in all summer, during the summer, who are available to help with that, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So I kind of talked a little bit about the transition to high school, and it really is a 4-year process. And like I said, it's inspiring and exciting to watch. But the goal of freshman year is to really get acclimated to high school. It's a bigger building. It's a rigorous environment. The coursework's going to be a little harder than you had before. Just like every other year, the work gets a little bit harder. But it's also, there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of decision choices that students can make. There's a lot of exploration that can be done with courses and content. So that's really the goal of 9th grade, is to try to get that foundation in, start off smooth. And then as you transition to each year, you're essentially they're building that bridge to independence. And I see it each year. They're becoming more and more they're self-advocating, they're focused, they're driven, there's goals. And so that's sort of what you're going to see. The good news is that when we talk to alumni, and every year we have alumni come back here around in between Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday break. And we do an alumni return day. And they're students who graduated the year before, and we have them come talk to the senior class to talk about their experiences in post-secondary education, what they learned, what they wish they knew when they were in their seats and such. And one thing that I can say has been common amongst many of the alumni for the years that I've been here is they all say that when they get to where they're going, and many of them are going to very competitive universities and educational settings, that they feel like they're more prepared than most majority of their peers. That they feel like when they talk to their peers, in their dorms and in their classes, that they're handling it better. They feel like they have the skills that are necessary to be successful there, and the feedback they get from their professors kind of supports that. So the good news is, we're going to do a good job of having them be prepared for wherever it is they go next, and we feel confident in the feedback that we're getting from the students themselves with that. Okay, so a couple of things that I will say, you're going to find happening is they're going to get a chance to start exploring some interests. So you're probably going to find them noticing interest in things maybe you didn't see coming, whether it's a certain content area, in electives or courses. That's going to happen. We will work with students at this age to become self-advocates, to be able to feel comfortable reaching out to their teachers directly, speaking to their teachers, following up with their teachers, letting them know if they didn't understand something or if they're going to miss class and they're not sure what work they need to do. That's something that I can say with my own children in middle school. Some kids are strong at that age and some are not yet. But here at the high school, we're going to work with them. Counselor's going to work with them to start to learn to develop those skills so that when they do leave here, they're able to be successful in their next environment. So we'll work on that. Time management is going to be something that's going to require some growth and development at the high school. Managing your workload, managing the rotating schedule that we have, knowing when things are due and such, and keeping track of your workload with all the other extracurricular type activities that you have. So that's something that we work on here at the high school. There is a lot of supports here at the high school. The first level of support is absolutely the classroom teachers. One of the reasons that I'm still here after 11 years and didn't want to be anywhere else is because I think I work with one of the most professional, intelligent teaching staffs that I've been at. And I've worked at 4 different school districts, and it's really been, they're really an amazing group. And so they make themselves available for students. They really care. They want to see students be successful. And what I've seen them do, in order to make themselves available, it's really great. So they have sort of an open door policy. They'll always give times when they're available for extra help, but they tend to work outside of that, even if a student really needs to or has a conflict. But they'll have extra help times, maybe during our common lunch, could be before school, could be after school. Maybe when a student has a study hall, if they have one, the teacher happens to be off that period, they might plan to meet to be able to review things. So teachers are really the best first point of contact for support. And beyond that, we have 7 school counselors. So every student will be assigned a school counselor, and that counselor will be your counselor for the 4 years of high school. So we keep families together so that start to build that relationship. And it starts off with acclimating to high school, and it could end up with submitting college applications in senior year and such. We also have a student assistance counselor here at the high school who's available for all students, sort of a tier 2 of mental health clinician support. So that's a person that's available for all kids in the building. We have a fully functioning child study team with 2 school psychologists, a learning disability teacher's consultant, and a social worker. We also have sort of a tier 3 counseling program called Aspire that has 2 mental health clinicians available in the building. And we also have a special education teacher who's assigned to a classroom. And this is a place for students who are managing some difficult social, emotional, mental concerns and need an extra layer of in-school counseling and maybe even a quiet place to get work done and get support. And so we have that level here. So there's a lot of levels of support here, depending upon the needs of the student. And of course, we have our administrators who are always available, our supervisors, our principals or vice principals, and our school nurse. Our school counseling department, as I sort of mentioned in that last slide, is our 7 school counselors. We also have a college and career counselor who helps work with students for the post-secondary planning process along with the school counselor. So that individual will be available for your students down the road as they get closer to that future planning. Academic support primarily is first with the teachers. And like I mentioned before school, after school, study hall. During lunch, you're going to hear from Mrs. Geronda. Because we have a 55-minute lunch, we have a lot of options available in the building for kids to either do work or get assistance on things, so you'll hear a little bit about that. We also use a Schoology learning management system up here. So in the middle school, it's Google Classroom, but up here we use a little more robust system called Schoology, which Connor Henderson's going to talk to you about. And that is a learning management system that's very similar to what you would find in most high schools these days, and definitely all universities around the country, where it kind of curates all of your coursework, and sometimes even assignments and assessments and stuff are done there. And then here at the high school, we use the Genesis Parent Portal, just as you're used to in the middle school. So how do we work on acclimation? So one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that the transition to the high school is positive, exciting, smooth. It started with me going down to the middle school to talk to the students back in February about scheduling and getting them excited about the courses they can take and the electives. Yesterday, talking to them about the schedule and the lunch and the freedom and the opportunities here, giving them a tour of the building. On the first day of school, we'll have an early delayed opening for the whole school, and our freshmen will come in for 8:20, which is our start time. So high school starts a little later this year, 8:20. They're going to be assigned like a homeroom classroom, and we're going to provide you with that room number. The kids are going to report there. And our upper class, our links leaders, upper class, like peer leader students are going to meet with them in those rooms and get a chance to answer questions that they might have about the high school day. Maybe questions that they don't want to ask me or Mr. Onda, but they're, would like to ask the students. And the students will give them some advice and such. Then they're going to come here for class meeting, and we're going to lay out everything for them about how their day is going to look and what they can do for lunch and such. About a week or two into school, we'll have an activities fair. All the clubs that are represented in the high school set up tables, we'll eat, sometimes we do it outside, sometimes we do it in the gym, and they'll get to explore all the clubs and activities that are available in the school. And the upperclassmen students who are on the clubs will be at these tables and be able to answer questions and such, and they can sign up to be able to attend a meeting, to be able to consider joining those clubs. After about what would be the first marking period of this freshman year, we will have a counselor. Usually we've done it 2 different ways. Last year we did it at back to school night. So at back to school night, we had counselor meet and greets that were about 25 minutes, 30 minutes before back to school night. So if it starts at 7 o'clock to go to see your child's teachers, you would have them come in a little earlier for grade 9 and have a chance for you to meet your child's school counselor face to face. They talk to you a little bit about the supports that they provide. And then the students in the month of November will meet with their counselors one-on-one. And we purposely wait a little bit into the school year because it gives us more information from them. Counselors get to introduce themselves, get an idea on how's the school year going so far, what's going well, what's a challenge, and then they can talk through some of the things that they're experiencing at that time and really start to build that rapport. So that'll happen around November, December, or January. Usually they're done by December though. And throughout the rest of the year, our counseling department and our student assistance counselor may have different counseling groups that are available. And we also have a rest and relaxation room here at the high school that hosts every day during lunch the ability for kids to be able to attend. And we have a lot of different events that go on in there, some wellness type events, things to help manage stress, anxiety. We have a lot of different really fun things that go on there, sometimes live music, that we have performers and stuff like that. So it's a nice way to get kind of acclimated into the building. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dronder for a little bit. I've talked a lot, and she'll take you through sort of the day in the life of the high school, and then Mr. Henderson will talk to you about some other important piece of information, and I'll come back up and we'll wrap it up, okay? Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to give you sort of some practical tips and talk to you a little bit about what a day in the life of a Chatham High School student is like. First thing is, you can see our school hours here. We do start at 8:20, which should be nice for your children considering the middle school starts the earliest in the district at this point. But one piece of advice that I have for you is, although school begins at 8:20, you really want to try to arrive on campus by about probably 5 minutes after 8, because the traffic on Lafayette Avenue is really bad around the start of school time. We are a school within a neighborhood, so there is a lot of traffic and not really that many different ways of arriving to campus. So that's some advice for you. You can see here our half-day schedule and also our delayed opening schedule, and these and any other bell schedules that we have you can find on our website as well. A student schedule consists of 8 periods that are 55 minutes long. We have a 4-day rotating drop block schedule. So it's similar to CMS in that they also have a rotating schedule, but I think it's a little bit simpler because we don't meet every class every day, and they have kind of an interesting thing going on in the middle of the day with lunch and electives that we don't have. Every day, 6 of a student's 8 periods will meet. One class that's on their schedule would drop out in the morning, one class on their schedule would drop out in the afternoon. Over the course of a 4-day rotation then, a student would meet each class 3 times. So this is basically what a general schedule would look like. This is what a filled-in schedule would look like for your typical 9th grade student. You can see that the periods rotate, but a class that's in the morning will always be in the morning, and a class that is in the afternoon will always be in the afternoon. The majority of our science classes have lab, which Dr. Walker mentioned. That's why they have 1 extra credit to them. And that science lab is going to take place on whichever day the science class is either directly before lunch or directly after lunch in the schedule. So in this particular example, if you take a look at day 3, you see that biology is the class right before lunch. What would happen on a day 3 is a student would report to biology, the 3rd block in the morning. When the lunch bell rings, they actually stay in class. About 26 minutes later, a bell is going to ring in the middle of the lunch period, and that will mark the end of their science class for the day. They would then go to lunch, be able to eat for the remainder of the lunch period, which would be about another 25 minutes or so. And then they would move on to their afternoon classes. If a student had science immediately after lunch, like let's say, for example, period 5, where on a day 3 you see a study hall, we'll just pretend that that's the science class. Halfway through the lunch period, when that bell rings, they leave lunch, then they go directly to their science class, where they remain for that second half of lunch, and then also for the full next period, and that represents their lab. A number of students have study hall in their schedule. Dr. Walker had mentioned that, and I will talk in a little bit about what students can do during study hall, but one thing that I do want to mention that's also very different from CMS is that students who have a study hall in their schedule, if the study rotates into the first block of the day, they don't have to come into school until the second block of the day. If the study hall rotates into the last block of the day, they can leave early before that last block. Now, for 9th graders, they require special permission in order to do this. And there is a form that we put in the parent portal that you can fill out over the summer saying that you give your child blanket permission to either arrive late or leave early if they have a study hall. So please be on the lookout for that. Once the students are in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, there's no special permission needed. We just assume that the students will take advantage of that late arrival or early dismissal. So as I mentioned, probably about 80% of our students do take a study hall. It might be a full year, it might be a 1 semester or a half-year study hall. And there are some things that students need to do and then some things that they can do. So one thing that students need to do is scan into a location. We use scanners in a lot of different locations in our building, and in order to scan in, students use their ID card, which has a barcode on it, which if they have their middle school ID card, it will work. It's the same barcode, same student number. Otherwise, they can access a QR code off of their parent portal. But when it's time for study hall, they either report to the cafeteria and scan in, or they report to the media center and scan in. There are some other places that they could go if they want to. For example, we have a small group testing room where they can make up assessments that they may have missed. They may go see a school counselor. Any of those locations, though, they would be scanning in. The other thing that they can do is go see a teacher if they've made an appointment in advance, and in order to do that, they check in with the study hall teacher first, let them know where they're going, and then they head on to the teacher. If they go to the cafeteria for study, they can get food and drink. We have the food lines are open for probably most of the morning and then through the lunch period. They can use their cell phones. They can relax, they can talk, and of course they can do work, which we encourage, but we also encourage relaxation too. In the library, if they choose to go there, there's no food and drink allowed in the library, and it is a quiet study location, but it is probably more comfortable than the cafeteria, so a lot of students do choose to go there. And of course the test makeup room, if they've missed an assessment, they can go there. Our schedule, one of the major features of our schedule is that the morning and the afternoon rotations are broken up by the common lunch. And the common lunch period is different from lunch at CMS because the entire school eats lunch at the same time. It's not broken up by grade. The other thing about the common lunch is that it's about twice as long as the lunch period at CMS, and it does not take students 54 minutes to eat, as you probably know. So there is a lot of time after they eat or before they eat for them to do other things. So first of all, some places where they can go during lunch, or during the common lunch, would be the media center, computer lab. We have an outdoor picnic area that actually has Wi-Fi, and so we have that open in the nice weather. They can eat in the auditorium lobby. It seems that a lot of our theater and music kids choose to do that. They can go to the rest and relaxation room. They are permitted to eat in there. We have art rooms open and also technology rooms open. The main places, though, where students eat would be the AB gym and the C gym and the cafeteria. So in our cafeteria, there are a variety of options. We have the hot lunch line, we have entrees, we have snacks, and we have the very popular Boar's Head Deli, where the students can pre-order deli sandwiches that are actually made with Boar's Head meat, and they're very, very good. So if they pre-order, those sandwiches are placed on a cart outside of either the cafeteria or one of the gyms, so that they can pick it up at the start of lunch and they don't have to wait in line. They can also pre-order and pick up at the end of the school day if they want something to bring to practice or just to bring home. We also have kiosks in the lobby and, depending on staffing, in the C gym for snacks and drinks. And also in the lobby, we have a big pastry cabinet, which seems to be very popular, and a coffee bar. Payment for food is probably similar to what happens at the middle school. We use payschoolcentral.com for the lunch accounts, and we are cashless, so students scan in their ID barcode at the register. Students are off during lunch. The entire school eats at the same time, so unless they have lab, they're free. And so this is when most of our clubs meet, which is nice because then it doesn't create a conflict between the clubs and any athletics or anything else that they have going on after school. They also can make up tests during lunch because we do have a test makeup room open at that time. And school counselors and other support staff are also available during lunch. So one of the common themes when we presented this to students yesterday, and Dr. Walker talked about it a little bit earlier, is that the high school really brings with it a new level of freedom, and with that freedom brings a lot of responsibility. So the lunch and study hall are just two areas where students have more freedom to decide how and where they're going to spend their time, and so we really hope and expect that they make good choices. So now I'm going to pass the program over to Connor Henderson, who will talk a little bit about communication and also the technology that we use at the high school.
All right, thank you. I'm going to begin with what you can expect from us in terms of communication. I think you'll find that it looks a lot like what you're experiencing at CMS right now. We will send mass messaging out to the entire school or maybe to the entire district that will go to any parent email that is listed in Genesis. In terms of seeking out information, the website has a lot of information for current students and our 8th graders who want to learn about the high school. I'm sure that they spent time on the website looking at different elective offerings, looking at maybe some of the elective videos. And there is a lot of information there, and we do update it frequently with news and announcements as well as the calendar. The Genesis Parent Portal looks exactly the same once you get to the high school, right? That's where you'll be entering attendance notes, monitoring your child's attendance, as well as their grades. Schoology is our learning management system. I'll go a little more in depth in the next few slides about Schoology, but when you hear Schoology, think Google Classroom, right? That's our version of Google Classroom. It's a little more robust, and I'll talk about some of the features. And that is always a smooth transition for our incoming 9th graders. And then email. Students should check their email on a daily basis. If students are coming to high school with a cell phone, we encourage them to download the Schoology app as well as have their school email on their phone, because that will be the way that their teachers are communicating with them directly. As I said, on the high school website, you'll see news and announcements, as well as the calendar for after-school events. The athletics website has the calendar and all of our sports information. The counseling tab, as we get closer to the end of the spring or summer, when your child is ready to enter high school, I would encourage you to look through the counseling tab. right? There is information on there about the 4-year plan, right? Really thinking about each year. Once they identify an interest, tracking, can I take 3 or 4 courses in technology, in business, in art, right? Starting to map out a plan. College is very far away at this point, but there is a lot of information about the college process on there. Clubs and activities, which is also located in Schoology. That's how students can join a club, is by joining the Schoology group, and that's where they'll go for news and information about clubs. But the general list of clubs and the contact information is on the school website. Our student handbook is also online, and I told the 8th grade students yesterday, again, as they get ready to enter high school, it's definitely something that they want to read through. As Mrs. Duranda said, there is more freedom and independence, but there's also an expectation of improved behavior, following the rules, knowing the rules and expectations. And we cover the most important policies and procedures with the students on the first day, but it is a good idea for them to read through the handbook. There's the rotating schedule template that Mrs. Duranda showed you a few slides back. There's a digital copy in our handbook. I encourage students to print that page out and actually write out their schedule. It helps them get through those first few days or weeks as they learn our schedule. There's also resources for students and families who are looking for additional support. Instructional technology, once again, it will look very similar to what you're experiencing at CMS. Every student will use their Chromebook. They are expected to bring a device charged every single day. They can use a personal device, and some students, a small number of students, opt to bring their own device, but they will need their Chromebook if they're taking a digital assessment. So even if a student has their own laptop and they prefer to bring that each day, they shouldn't just throw the Chromebook in the back of the closet, because they will need to have it ready on test days. Wireless access is located throughout the building, as well as the new patio. Every classroom has a new smartboard that was installed last year. We use Google Apps and Google Drive, which thankfully the 8th graders are familiar with, and that again is always a smooth transition. And then Schoology. So Schoology is our learning management system, and this is a sample course page. I selected financial literacy because that's one of our graduation requirements, so just about every student will take financial literacy. And this is what a course page looks like. You'll see at the top of the page there is a welcome page, and that will include course information, similar to what you'd find in a college syllabus, and then folders for each unit of instruction. So Unit 1, budgeting. All of the resources within that unit will be posted in that folder. So the articles, the videos, the slideshow presentations, the assignments, and the digital assessments that are given through Schoology are all within that folder. And we've instructed teachers to organize their pages this way because we think it helps students, one, compartmentalize and see the connections within the content within the unit. And it also acts as a great study guide for them to see in chronological order, one, what they learned at the beginning of the unit, what they learned throughout and towards the end of the unit, as well as how the units have built upon each other throughout the entire course. So this is what each of their course pages will look like, and if you see on the right-hand side, it lists any upcoming assignments or events. The Schoology calendar. Now keep in mind, this is an entire month, so I know there's a lot of color on there, but you can adjust the calendar to view it by the day or by week, similar to Google Calendar. Every academic responsibility of a student, so every assignment, every test, quiz, will be posted in Schoology, and it will automatically populate to their master calendar. So it curates from all 7 or 8 courses, as well as the groups that they join. So if there's a club meeting during lunch, that's going to appear on their calendar throughout the day. This is the feature of Schoology that we get the most amount of positive feedback from the 9th graders. Our students will tell you they live off of the Schoology calendar, and that's why we encourage them to download the app, not so that they can do homework on their phone, but so that they can check the calendar and stay up to date with all of their responsibilities. They will receive a training from me during their health and phys ed class within the first week. So that's smaller groups within a classroom. I'll take them through all of the features, answer any questions that they have, talk about some of the similarities between Google Classroom and Schoology, and then some of the differences. And our 9th grade teachers are aware that this is a brand new platform for the students. So they will also review Schoology and talk about the ways that they can expect it to be used in their course. Right? It's used a little bit differently in English than it is in math, where you may still submit your homework on paper instead of digitally. So our teachers will also assist the students in that transition. Clubs and activities, it's a huge part of our school and it's a great way to get connected. I encourage every 9th grader during that Schoology training session, we take time to look through every club offered within Schoology, and I encourage them to join at least one club within their first semester. We have over 60 clubs, and the best part about our schedule is that common lunch, right? Students and teachers are available for 55 minutes during that day. Now our teachers are eating lunch, but many of them choose to offer office hours for extra help or to run a club during lunch. And it's a really nice time for students to join a club and not have it conflict with their after-school responsibilities, right? Whether that's a sport or the performing arts, or maybe they get a job at some point. So it's really nice that the club meetings can take place during the day. The last piece that I want to highlight is attendance, because it is a substantial difference from the middle school experience. In high school, the state, in order for students to earn credit, the state requires a student to pass the class. So at Chatham High School, that's a 60% or above, and that's typically common knowledge. But what many parents entering high school for the first time aren't aware of is the attendance requirement as well. That is tied to them earning credit for the course. And the state says that they cannot miss more than 10% of their class periods. So with our rotating schedule, we have determined that to be 8 absences for a semester course, which first semester would be the start of school at the end of August to about the middle of January. So 8 absences in a semester course and 16 absences for a full year course. There's a lot of communication along the way. No one is ever surprised when they reach 16, but it is a policy that I think it's important for students and their families to know about as they enter high school. In terms of the communication from the parents must submit a note through the parent portal if a student is going to be absent, or if they are going to be more than 10 minutes late. And if there is no communication from the parent for an excessive tardy, 10 minutes or more, or the absence, that would be considered a cut, and there can be consequences there. So it is important that all of the absences are verified by the parent. Entering a note in the parent portal, right, my child is homesick today, excuses the absence from any immediate consequences, but it does count towards their total, right? If you think of their 16 days as your sick days at work, right? Everyone gets sick. We understand that some days you may not be able to go to work, and some days the student may not be able to come to school, but we want them in school. We want to prevent them from missing an excessive amount of time. So if a child is homesick and you enter a note in the portal, again, it's verified by you, but it does count towards their 16. The state allows for religious exemption for observance of religious holidays, college visits, bereavement days, which I hope no one has to experience, but we do exempt those absences, as well as medical emergencies, and those are dealt with on a case-by-case basis. There are always extenuating circumstances that could be medically exempt, but your regular sick days do count towards your 8 or 16. And there are automated letters that are sent through Genesis when the student reaches certain benchmarks, so 4, 8, 10, 13. Again, there's a lot of communication and intervention along the way. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Walker, who will speak about athletics. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll speak for Mr. D'Alcanzo regarding athletics. So we have 3 seasons of athletics here at the high school. These are our teams. You can see our fall sports, our winter, and our spring. The teams with the asterisk at the end have a freshman level team, the rest are JV and varsity. Athletics is a really big part of the Chatham High School community. And we have probably about a 60% participation rate. We have 500 to 600 athletes per season in each sport. But it's also a big part of the school community in terms of attending the events. We have a recruiter weekend event. We have, we host a lot of big games here at home. It's a really nice opportunity to bring schools to get the school together. So it is a big part of our community here. For athletics, for the 8th grade parents, you should have received a school messenger that was a fall sports interest survey. So that went out, I think it went out yesterday. And that's only for fall sports, by the way. So if your child's thinking about a winter sport or spring sport, we're not addressing that now. That'll happen once they're here. We'll do that in the fall. Fall sports start early. The NJSIAA has football beginning on August 9th this year. That's the very first day where teams are allowed to practice. And then follow that with girls tennis on the 16th, and then all other sports start on August 21st. So if your child is thinking about participating in a fall sport, you have to keep these dates in mind. There will be forms posted online, clearance forms that will have to be filled out, including a physical that needs to be done. There's a physical form. Keep in mind these dates so that you book your child's physical. They're good for 1 year, and you'll have to get that in before August 1st. So you want to, once those will be published online, you'll be able to book those physicals. The forms are all actually on the athletics website right now. So keep those dates in mind, and on May 16th, the fall coaches will be going down to Chatham Middle School to do a meet the coaches with the students right after school, for the students to get to go and meet the coaches for any athletic team that they're thinking of participating in. And that'll be happening right after school on May 16th. I will tell you that high school athletics is a commitment. It's, can be a 5 or 6 day a week commitment, and there is an expectation from the coaches and the teams that, students are there for everything. So we want to avoid planning any types of vacations, during athletic season. So keep that in mind. If it's a fall sport and your child's thinking about playing football, that August 9th is the first day that they'll be out on the field. And avoiding trying to plan, vacations and trips as you can outside of the athletic seasons if you could. The calendars and schedules for most of the sports are all on the athletics webpage as well. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the schedules will be available in early June, maybe very end of May. I'll have those out. You'll at that point, you'll see who your child's assigned counselor is, unless you hear from counselor beforehand because of the schedule change that needs to be made. When you receive those schedules, please just look them over. We also will share this with the students just to make sure you have a course in every period and it's what you were looking for. And then if there's any questions, please contact the high school. So the high school counseling department, we're here all summer long. If counselors are in the school, for the most part, every week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, or 2 days of the week. So there's always going to be a counselor. It doesn't have to be your counselor. It could be any counselor that can help with schedule questions or things like that. And we do have 2 secretaries in the office that are there all summer that can direct you, so you can reach out there. And like I said, I will be sharing this presentation with you as well, so you'll have all this. As Mr. Henderson mentioned, taking a look at the handbook is definitely a good idea. There's a lot of policies and procedures in there. It's just good to know. Like, when can I make a schedule change up to? When is the point where I can change a level in a class? Like, all that's in our handbook, and so it's good to be familiar with some of that prior to the start of school. Prior to the start of school, we'll have a big summer mailing that will be published in the portal, and that will have a lot of information about the school available for you as well, and about the upcoming school year. Okay, so with that, last part of our program, and something we've done every year, is we always 2 parents and 2 students to come up and talk a little bit about their experience transitioning into Chatham High School. And so with that, I'd like to invite them up to the stage to come join us.
name is Colin Fitt, and I'm a student here at the Chatham High School, and I came from the Chatham Middle School. When I first came to the high school, I was feeling a whole different array of emotions. One of these being nervousness, as any kid is feeling when they're leaving a place where they have been accustomed to and put in a brand new environment. When I went to the open house, I got lost countless times with my friends as we explored the vast hallways and different branches of the school. So that I knew where I was going, I had to go a little later with my mom so that I could track where all my classes were and where I had to go on the first day of school. I was also nervous of my teachers. Would they be nice and encouraging, rude and hurtful? At the same time though, I was really excited. I found the middle school to be a little boring as I had been there for 3 years, and I was excited for the new challenge. I was also extremely excited when I found out about in the high school, you jump 2 different classes per day, which was some of the best news I'd heard about the school. These differences took a little longer to get used to, but now I feel at home here at the Chatham High School and enjoy coming here for school. The biggest change for me was the workload at the high school. Through most of middle school, I did very little studying and breezed through all of my classes without too much trouble. As soon as I started high school and took my first math test, I realized that my studying habits were awful and they needed to change if I was going to do well in my future of high school and hopefully college. I started taking track of my classes, studying for real for about an hour every day when I found out about the tests, and I started getting the grades I was hoping for. It was amazing. And I also wasn't scrambling last minute for a test I just remembered I had the next day. The scheduling also got easier over time. After about a week or so, I memorized which classes were after each other and I breezed through my day. Schoology took a little longer to get used to, but now I'm using it as easily as I'm using Google Classroom. One perk of Schoology is that it has a built-in calendar and helps to track your assignments for you. You can also add events and messages for yourself, like when to study or when you have club meetings. Right now, I'm taking Honors Algebra 1, Honors English, Honors Biology, and US History 1 as my key academic classes. In the first semester, I took Business 101, and now I am taking Introduction to Design and Innovation. Overall, the workload is not that bad if you are focused on your homework and studying. For me, I go home and smash out as much homework as I physically can, and then I go to soccer practice. After that, I come home, eat dinner, and finish the remaining amounts of homework I have. Some nights have more homework and studying than others, like when I have 4 tests on the same day, but usually that's my routine. This works for me, but it may not work for everybody. Some people may need one time period to do all of their homework and studying, while others can multitask and still do their homework. It's all about finding a rhythm that works for you and sticking to it. I would like to recommend a study hall for the full year. It helps with your work, getting your work done before you leave from school and help to cram before tests. Also, if you have friends in your study hall and you have no work to do, you can spend a little less than an hour with them, which is really nice. My counselor was really helpful this year. He helps me to understand my classes and helps me to find the path that I want to take for the future. He was always there to answer any of the questions that I had. I am also in different clubs at school. The main club that I'm involved in is Key Club. This is a service club that volunteers at various events and fundraisers. Outside of school, I am on a club soccer team called STA, and I help to babysit some of my younger neighbors. To manage the workload, I make up a list of everything that I need to do. Soccer practices are almost every day after school, and babysitting is usually on weekends when I don't have to go to other states for soccer tournaments. Also in the fall, I was on the high school soccer team. Practices were every day after school, and games being almost the rest of the day after school. I had to plan my events several weeks in advance in anticipation of the games, and because of soccer, the fall was jam-packed, not giving me a moment to rest. Through Chatham Soccer, I was able to meet some of the new kids and form relationships with them before school even started, which helped them to acclimate to the school and have someone to talk to. A tip for new students that I have is to find out what they're passionate about and stick to that. For me, that's sports, but for others, it may be theater, dance, music, or something else. Dive into that and hang out with people who have common interests with you. These people you can relate to and be yourself with. All in all, coming to the high school has been an amazing experience for me, and I am grateful for everyone who has helped me in the school, and I hope that you find the same sense of belonging that I did. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chloe Superak. This past year, I moved from New York to Chatham. I went to a middle school in the West Village called 75 Morton, and it was a very unique experience. I was beyond nervous entering high school, and I had no prior knowledge of what it would be like because everything I was hearing about high school from my friends and teachers was specific to the ones in the city, which are much different from the high schools here. There, you have to apply to high school and get accepted based on your grades, your skills, and sometimes essays, so very different from Chatham. I was also scared about all of my classes and whether or not I was prepared for them. But I was especially worried about meeting new people. I didn't know anyone the summer coming into high school, but a week before school, I was introduced to other students who were new to Chatham too, along with links at the beginning of the year that had helped me meet new people. On the other hand, I was excited about the freedom high school offers and all of the opportunities there are here. There are so many differences from the middle school, like the schedule change every day, which I eventually got used to, but it took me a while. And we also use Schoology, which is similar to Google Classroom, but I also had to adjust to that. And we also get a lot of freedom using our phones around school, but during class it's really up to the teacher whether they want you to use it or not. We also have a study hall available, which I find really helpful. I get a lot of homework done in studying before classes. It's also a great time to socialize too. It's especially beneficial if you have plans after school and want to get work done. Something else that's really great is the access we have to teachers and counselors. At the beginning of the year, each student is assigned to a counselor for the rest of their years in high school. You'll have a meeting and you and your counselor will get to know each other and go over anything you need to know for your current and upcoming years. I find my counselor a great resource, and I know if I have anything that's bothering me, or if I need advice or just want to talk, I can go to her. This year, I decided to stay in all A classes, U.S. History 1A, English 9A, Biology 9A, and Geometry A. But there are different variations to these classes based on teacher recommendations. I chose to take Spanish as my language, but there's a lot you can choose from. In addition to my core classes, I took ceramics and I'm currently taking Introduction into Design and Innovation as my electives. I'm currently in Key Club, which is volunteering, Alex's Lemonade Stand, which is raising money for cancer, and Aspen, where we help animals in need. At the beginning of the year, there's the activity fair, which is where I get to pick all of my clubs. And they have stands promoting the different clubs, and you can sign up for the ones that interest you. My workload is definitely not overwhelming. Most of the clubs consist of bake sales, activities related to the club, some field trips, and volunteering. I feel like most of my teachers in general are pretty understanding of how much work they give you and the time they give you in class or outside of class to do that work. I mostly get all of my work done in study hall and maybe some at home, but it's never too much. At home, I do take time to study, maybe for an hour a few days in the day before a test. My teachers, but probably all of the teachers, are really helpful when it comes to studying. They either make a study guide or give you resources to help you study. This is also helpful because I play tennis in the fall with the school, and throughout the winter I do clinics outside of school. It's not very time consuming, but it's still important that I plan out work based on what my day looks like. Since I was new to Chatham this year, I made many new friends. I feel like regardless if you went to the middle school here or not, it's still important to branch out and meet new friends because you will have the opportunity to. As well as making new friends in your grade, meeting people in older grades is also great, which I have done through sports, clubs, and classes. It's important not to stay stuck with only the same people you came from middle school with, because there's so many other people to befriend or be friendly with along with them. There are a lot of changes in high school versus middle school, but nevertheless, they're all good.
Hi, my name is Wendy Kuppenheimer, and I'm the mother of 3 teenage/young adult boys. And my oldest is now 20 years old and a sophomore in college. He went through Chatham Schools K through 12, and he really feels that he had a great education here. He was very well prepared for college. And that happened, he was here during the COVID years, the last year and a half of his schooling, and he still felt that he got a great education and is extremely well prepared. My middle son, Will, attended Chatham in 1st grade through 8th grade, and then when it came time to transition to high school, he decided he wanted a smaller environment, and he is at Morristown Beard. He's graduating this year. It's nice, though, he's really stayed connected to his Chatham friends and is really still a part of this community, which I think is a testament to the Chatham community itself and then high school. And my youngest is Paul. He is a freshman with these guys, and he's had a very easy and happy transition this year. He's doing some of the same sports and activities that he did throughout middle school, and he's trying new things, which is great, and he loves the later wake-up time, and it's been a really nice transition. And I remember thinking when my oldest started, and I was listening to the schedule and dropping a class and looking at the layout of this building and thinking it was seemingly so complicated, and I really needed to understand it so that I could help him. And I can tell you, you don't really need to understand it yourself. So if you do, that's great, but your kids are gonna come here, they're gonna learn it so quickly, and if they have any trouble, there are plenty of people here to help them, and it's really natural, it's really organic, and it just happens quickly. So don't feel like you need to understand it or know where they're going. They will pick it up very quickly. I think the freshman year, the academic load is they build up gradually. It's very manageable. Get your kids into good steady habits in the beginning because it does build up, throughout their 4 years here. The intensity builds, the coursework, the course load builds. But it's really a nice transition. They don't overwhelm the kids at first. I think most of my friends would say that their kids had an easy transition academically, but you have to start to learn good study habits. In terms of choosing course loads, we've really encouraged our kids to look at 3 things. So what are the teachers recommending for you? What are your interest levels? And what does your overall course load look like? And so you might be recommended, let's say you're recommended for 4 higher level classes. You want to look at what is your child interested in, help them decide, do I like more of the math and sciences, or do I want to take the English and history, and not, especially in the beginning, try not to take too many classes that are extremely challenging. You take the ones you're interested in, and then if you're doing well and you can manage that course load, then you can build up as the years go on. I think that's a better way to go than to take too many challenging classes in the beginning and become overwhelmed. And I think the teacher recommendations are really good to go off of. They will tell you what they think your child can handle. And I think it's important to let them really make the decision and what are their interests. They're going to be going, ultimately they're not for a while, but they're going to college and they have to decide what they're interested in and what their goals are, and it really has to be coming from them. And on that note, I try not to check the parent portal obsessively. I know you guys are all used to that from middle school probably. I feel like it's really time to let them, learn on their own, learn from their mistakes, and I trust that when something important comes up, they're going to let me know, or a teacher's going to let me know. And of course, I check it still, but I just really think it's important to let them really grow and become as independent as possible during this time. It's so interesting that the study hall has come up so many times today because that was on my list. I think most of our kids are really busy. They have sports, they have activities after school. I find that when they're awake and alert and they have some extra time during the day, that is a great time to get their work done. If they have questions, they have access to their teachers who are probably close by. So I really encourage you to encourage them to use that time wisely. And some days you might just need a break, and that's fine too. I mean, it's a time to relax, but it is a really good time to, if your energy is high and you can concentrate, it's a good time to get work done. I think one thing that I found enjoyable is getting to, just kind of checking in with them and learning about what they're learning. My son took US history 10th grade, and I thought it was so interesting. I went back, I would quiz him, and I remember thinking, I didn't really learn this myself as well in high school, and just going back and relearning it with him, it was a way for me to connect with him and kind of see what he was doing. And take classes out of your wheelhouse. I think art is actually a requirement, but my son took an art class, and he was he was telling me how he would go into the class and they'd have some instruction at first, and then they'd be allowed to wear their headphones and work on their projects. And he found it really relaxing. He had really, heavy coursework load at that time, and he found it a relaxing time. And he would come home with these projects. I was pretty impressed that we're not a very artistic family, and I was really impressed with what he was bringing home, and he was learning something new. And it was also just a time for him to kind of relax and not feel too much pressure on himself. I think, this is very generally speaking, I feel like the social and emotional issues, especially social issues that you would see in middle school, tend to decrease as they get to high school. A lot of the kids are more inclusive. I think it's an easier time, generally speaking, than middle school is. Of course, there's the kids are going to struggle socially and emotionally. And my advice to you is to have them, if they're having a problem, to reach out to their counselor. The counselor's not going to be able to fix everything, but they can kind of let your child know that they're not alone. They've seen it all before. They can just feeling like your counselor can understand you and maybe give you some practical advice as to what you can do. Maybe it is, go to the rest and relaxation room if you're feeling nervous about where to sit at lunch. Join a certain club where you might find people who have similar interests to you. And just generally speaking, I think staying attuned to your kids as they go through high school. It's easy to imagine they often want to be alone, they're moody, and kind of sticking through it with them and waiting for them to come to you. I found that just trying to get a little bit of alone time with each kid really helps in terms of them sharing with me. And it's important to keep that in mind because there's going to be ups and downs as they go through high school. And on that last note is just to let them have downtime. I think where there's no pressure, there's no performance, there's no activity, it's really important that they have fun, like we probably all remember doing in high school. And it's a really, a crucial time in their life, and that just enjoying themselves is as important as anything else. So, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sally Allen, and I think that Colin and Chloe and Wendy pretty much hit on everything, but I'll summarize a few things that were really important to our transition. First of all, I have two sons, one that is 19, that was CHS class of 2021. He is finishing his sophomore year at Vanderbilt University in Nashville and loves it, and felt very well prepared he's in a very intense school, and really felt like he actually came home at Thanksgiving his freshman year and said, some of my high school teachers are better than my college professors, which didn't make me feel so good about the tuition I'm paying. But, he has some amazing teachers that raised the bar and helped him expect more from himself. And then my second one is also Chloe and Colin's age, a freshman at CHS. So in terms of each of their transitions, and I'm going to quote them a little bit, but I won't tell you who's who. One of the things that was really important to our family and my sons navigating through freshman year was being present and taking the cue from your children, not thinking so much about the past and not thinking so much about the future. It's really easy freshman year to be thinking about college visits and APs and honors classes and requirements to get to high school. That will all come. They need, from our perspective, as one of my sons said, he said, I need to find my people first. And he was spot on. He got his people in place, and then he was a rock star. And so I sat back, I let him do his thing. And I think you will all, and the reason I say don't look back so much either is, it is such a different experience in the high school than in the middle school, that I think what you'll find is some of the things that might have been your kids' obstacles in the middle school, whether it be social, emotional, or academic, or time management, may not be their Achilles heel in the high school. It may shift because the rotating schedule, the later start time, the clubs and activities, there are so many things that that help kids to navigate this change, that you might see some new and different obstacles that you didn't expect. So don't get too caught up in their past and who their friends were and how they spent their time and what sports they made and didn't make. It's really just take the cue from them. If I seemed nervous, I know I made my kids nervous. So it's all about really me spending time with them, for me, it was spending time with them and finding out what they were interested in, what they were doing well with, where they felt they need more help, did they feel like they had someone to talk to. So being in the present was key for all of us, and that was a learning experience for someone like myself who really just wanted to like start thinking about college. The second thing is one of my sons saying, gosh, you know, high school is so different. It's not just about school, it's a lifestyle. And I was kind of like, wow, that's pretty deep for a freshman. And he meant that because there was so much in addition to the academic curriculum in terms of social emotional growth as well as things to get involved in. So, you know, one of the real benefits is, you know, my kids used to have sports on weekends and at night, and we'd come home and rush to get through high school homework in middle school and then go off to our stuff. Now it was, I turn my kids over to high school and then I might not see them till 6 o'clock, 6:30 at night, but then when they were home for the night and their day was full. I agree, they used their study halls, they used their time, they didn't come home and feel like they had to stay up till 1 in the morning. So they learn a lot of the stuff from their peers. So you might not have to be coaching your kids on this. If you see them on their phone rather than doing homework, it may be that they went to the library during lunch and they used their study hall wisely, which both my kids learned to do really well because they wanted the downtime when they came home. So this idea of the high school being a lifestyle, it's very common. I think for both my kids, without my prompting, they spend their lunch hours in the library. And they do that because they want to be done with it when they get home in the evening. And then the third thing that I really want to leave you with is the one ground rule I had going into high school is that I don't care what it is, but fall of freshman year, in August, you're going to show up for something. You're going to get involved before school starts because I want you to meet some upperclassmen. I want you to meet new kids your age that you didn't know, get a feel for the school. For each of my kids, that was cross country, which happens to have like 120 kids on it. Great way to meet people. And actually, one of my kids said, I love everything about cross country, except I really don't like the running. But you know what? They still loved cross country, and they still do. So, I didn't care if it was academic in nature, or band, or music, or theater, but I was insistent that they find something fall of the freshman year, and I said, you don't need to stick with it. It's an entry point, and you're going to figure it out from there. And then from there, the only other rule I set is I want you to find a club that is not sports related, that is something else that you've never been around before. And they both became very attached to the clubs they're in, and actually my son is at one of his clubs tonight. So that was a really important thing for us. I think you all covered anything else, so I'm going to close it out. I think at this point, Liz, Dr. Walker, whatever you have next on the agenda for us.
Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. Okay, so that pretty much concludes our presentation. I swear they're not paid presenters, by the way. They did a great job. So our open house will be in August, on Tuesday, August 15th. That's when we will have the school open for 8th grade students that come in with their schedules on Tuesday, August 15th. And they'll have their schedules and they'll be able to walk the building and they'll be able to find their classrooms and find their lockers. We'll have some upperclassmen students here to help guide them around the building. That'll be that day. And then again, like I mentioned before, you'll get information about our first day meeting and we'll be off into the high school, first year of high school. So I'm happy to take any general questions if anybody has any right now. And that was a lot. Yes?
For the physicals, you said they're due August 1st. Is that for every season of sport or just
Just the fall. Yeah. But I like to remind people that because you have to wait 365 days for the physical, so you want to just check your calendars on that. Any other questions?
Up top.
Right here.
just wanted to ask about the policy with regard to absences. So does it matter if they're excused or unexcused for the 8, for the semester 16 for the year?
Right, so all absences basically count except for the items that Mr. Henderson had up there. What happens is if a student reaches that threshold of 16, there is an appeal process. And, you know, if there was some prolonged illness and there's doctor's notes and stuff like that, you know, we take those all into consideration. But as far as the state goes, like, it's really only like those 4 days that are considered to be excused. So, you know, the best message I can give to that is just, and it is different from middle school, like attendance counts at the high school, and I had, as a principal, I only have a little bit of flexibility with that, but not as much, is you just want to try to be present at school as much as possible, which is, you know, when you can control it, you know, try not to plan, you know, vacations where you're coming out of school and things like that, if you, you know, because you never know when that year you're going to have a lot of absences. Any other questions? All right, it's been a long night. Thank you so much for coming, and you know, reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you.